You have seen him everywhere, but tonight you are seeing him live. Please put your hands together for Josh Johnson.
Sometimes I find myself falling down whole rabbit holes online of things, stories and stuff. And there's a case, there's a trial. It just ended. And I think it may qualify for trial of the century. I know that's premature to say, but I don't know. I think it's pretty incredible. The trial of Young Thug just ended. Now, if you don't know who Young Thug is, he's a rapper. It's not a dog whistle this time, all right? Young Thug is a rapper that was on trial in Fulton County in Georgia, right? Basically, the state's case, what they were alleging was that he took all of the money that he made from music and he funneled it through and to a gang called YSL, a gang that he was supposedly the leader of, right? And that's the state's case. And the judge in the case looked exhausted. I've never seen a judge act like this before. Every time the court camera cut to her, her head was in her hands. And I'm not gonna act like I know the law, okay? My understanding of the law sort of begins and ends with Law and Order SVU, all right? So I know you can sustain, and you can object. I've never heard a judge be like, you can't do that. She said it a lot. And now the prosecution in the case, the prosecutor had given out a lot of plea deals. Ton of plea deals. More plea deals than I thought you could give out. I didn't have a number in my head, but this felt like an egregious amount of plea deals. It just felt like she was going to the hood like, you get a plea deal, you get a plea deal, you get a plea deal, you get a plea. She was basically giving a plea deal to everybody in Georgia but Young Thug, right? And she was giving these plea deals in return for their cooperation, their testimony that she would use to piece by piece paint the bigger picture that the state was alleging that Young Thug's the leader of YSL. Everything they do is by his direction. All his money goes through and to them, right? And the only problem is the prosecutor in this case gave plea deals to some of the least helpful people in human history, all right? I've never seen people less helpful than this. It was astoundingly unhelpful. I was helping my friend move one time. And he and I had to move a pool table, just us, downstairs. And our third friend was there at the bottom of the stairs just watching. And even he was more helpful than anyone that the prosecutor gave a plea deal to in this case. At least he could be like, watch your step, something. I'm gonna tell you about some of the testimony. I'm gonna need you to be patient with me because a lot of the dudes testified in this trial are going by their rapper name and they haven't made it yet. So I don't know why it's spelled like that. I don't know how to pronounce it. Just, I'm gonna say he for short, all right? There's one dude that was on the stand, right? And prosecutor asked him a very specific question, a very specific reason. She goes, did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party, right? Now, Rich Homie Quan is also a rapper who has sadly passed away. But his friend, to the best of my knowledge, allegedly, is a gang member, right? This whole question is to paint Young Thug as a leader of a gang. That's why he would have a problem with a different gang member coming to his party, right? So the prosecutor asked, did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party? And then this guy on the stand goes, Thug, did you have an issue with Rich Homie Quan? Never in the history of court have I seen someone ask a question by the prosecution and then go, I'll just go to the source. And so then the prosecutor goes, no, I'm asking you. Did Young Thug have an issue with Rich Homie Quan bringing his friend to the party, all right? And then this guy goes, I'm not Young Thug, so I don't know. Moments later, the prosecutor's asking question after question after question, all alleging the same thing, all to the same end, right? And this dude, he's not being combative. He's not even being rude. He's just not being helpful. And so then the prosecutor pulls up, I don't know if she put up it exactly, but basically references his plea deal where she goes, I have right here you answering questions definitively that I'm asking you right now. And then this guy on the stand goes, y'all wrote that, I just signed it. Never in the history of court, at least that I know of, and it's like, you know, the internet especially was of two minds, because it was like people could not decide if these were like some of the dumbest people who had ever lived or legal masterminds. Because basically what this dude is saying in open court, right, is, look, you were about to give me how many years? I didn't want to do how many years, and you told me if I signed the paper, I wouldn't do how many years, right? So I signed the paper, but I'm not about to perjure myself. This dude was supposed to be on the stand for 3 hours. 3 days later. The prosecution is asking question after question after question, all to the same end, right? And, you know, references again. Look, I understand that we typed it up, but what is in this is based off of what you said to the police. This is based off of testimony you gave during interrogation. And he was like, yeah, but if you gave it to me to type up, it would say something different than what you have right there, right now. Even the prosecutor was like, oh. Question after question after question after question. And finally, this dude, he doesn't snap exactly. He doesn't lose it, right? I think he just gets exhausted. And finally he says, look, I'll tell you what I told the police. I'll say anything. Like, this is a witness for the prosecution. It's absolutely insane. The whole case is insane because you even look at the fact that the case had 3 different judges. Yeah, got passed off like a bad baton. First judge was Judge, I don't know how to pronounce his name. I think it's Glanville, yeah. And this judge, he does seem to suck. Like, he does. But he also had to put up with some stuff, too, because there were jurors that were fully out of pocket during this case. Just a couple of examples. There was one juror that got picked. It already took nearly a year, by the way, to pick a jury. which is insane. And then after they pick the jury, there's one juror that during the trial has started, and I think they just went to the Dominican Republic. Deputies got sent to their house, were knocking on the door, everything, and then they got back, and they had to appear in court, and the judge was like, you have jury duty, you have to be here to be on the jury. And they were like, every day? That sounds wildly inconvenient. Then the judge was ready to, hold this jury in contempt and was basically giving them an out because this judge in particular loved contempt. He had a lot of contempt. The entire trial full of contempt. And gave the juror a way out. He was like, look, I could send you to jail, I could fine you, but what I'm gonna have you do instead is write me a 30-page paper on the importance of being a juror. This dude sentenced her to APA style. He sentenced her to citing sources. You couldn't see his face in the moment, but even Thug was like, damn. That's cruel and unusual. I've never heard of that before. There was another juror that I admittedly, I don't even know what happened with this person, but I know that they got in trouble for for live streaming the case. Which is extra crazy because it was being live streamed. Like if you had been watching at home, you would just see them sitting with the jury like. You risk jail time for an extra angle. We are. Judge Glanville, oof. There was a lot of plea deals being given out the entire case, like I said before. And some of the things that were happening was, this is me guessing, but there were people that were not being super forthcoming, that they probably didn't necessarily have to be, but they were in some sort of trouble. And so the plea deal was just given just as an extra, it's okay, you can talk, we just need to get this guy, right? And even with that, there were still people that didn't quite want to testify. And then there were people that were being so difficult, state's witnesses who were being so difficult that the state just could not get anywhere, And there was one person, star witness. Basically, the prosecution needed a through line. They needed something that would connect everything. And so they laid a lot of it on one person in particular. Okay? And they needed his testimony so bad that they pretty much gave him immunity on the stand. I didn't even know you could do that. It sounds made up. It sounds fake. I feel like he thought it was fake too, because he was like, immunity on, so if I say something on the stand, answering one of your questions, and it implicates Thug, but it also implicates me, I'm okay? Yeah, you're okay, you have immunity. Immunity on the stand, you're gonna be good. You sure? Yeah, you're gonna be good. Okay, I'm not even joking. He goes, okay. Okay, but what if it's federal? And I love that. I love a good haggle. I love like, okay, I hear immunity, but can I get a federal? Can I get some federal? Federal, please. Can I get a little federal? Oh, it's beautiful. This dude gets all the stab, and you can tell he doesn't trust it. You can tell he's like, nah, they're up to something. Doesn't want to answer any questions, but we told you have immunity. All right. Basically compelling this man to testify, dangling immunity in his face. Sits on the stand. First question from a prosecutor. How old are you? And he goes, grown. And the prosecutor's like, what do you mean by grown? It's like, I'm an adult. Prosecutor is like, okay, seeing as you're an adult, how many years is that? And then he goes, looks over at the judge. I plead the fifth. Truly incredible work. Truly phenomenal, They would be asking him lots of questions, question after question. And it was getting frustrating for the prosecution. It was getting frustrating for the judge because, look, maybe I'm doing my best to be as fair as possible. But when you watch a case like this, it does just seem like if you're a defendant, you're up against two parties. You're up against the prosecution and you're up against the judge because everything in this case kept giving the prosecution chances, even when they would mess up. Because once again, they're not being given a lot with testimony, but there are things that they have in hard evidence. They're just not bringing them all together to make it cohesive, right? And then this star witness's testimony is not helping. So then, can't stress this enough, you cannot do this. Judge Glanville supposedly has a secret meeting with the witness and the prosecution, but not Young Thug's lawyers, right? It's something in Latin that I don't know how to pronounce, but you're not supposed to do it. And basically, in this meeting, this witness is then threatened with the dangled immunity and everything. Oh, we'll charge you for this. We'll hold you in contempt for 2 years. We'll put you in jail. All this stuff, unless you start testifying, unless you start answering questions to the best of your ability. I don't want to hear any more of this pleading of the fifth, all that stuff, right? And so then they go back to court, and he's answering questions so well that the defense gets suspicious. Defense is like, what happened between now and lunch? All of a sudden, he remembers everything. He remembered what color everybody was wearing. And then it comes to the defense lawyer's attention that there was this secret meeting. And so he addresses it in court, in front of the judge, to the judge. He goes, Your Honor, I've heard some distressing news that there was a secret meeting with you, the prosecution, and the witness. My client and I were not privy to. I don't know what was discussed. This person's acting different now. Like, what is this? And the judge, instead of denying it, instead of being like, that's a horrible accusation, that's not true at all, the judge goes, who told you that? And you can look at it. You can look at it because it was live streamed. You can look. Who told you that? And he's like, Your Honor, don't worry about who told me that. That's the least of my concern. It's who told me that. The meeting is my concern. He's like, no, I need to know. This is very distressing. I need to know who told you that. And he's like, Your Honor, it doesn't matter who told me that. Is that true? Like, did that happen? Who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that? Who told you that? Over and over and over. And it's just wild that, like, in a RICO case involving supposed gang members, that the judge is like, who snitched? Nah, for real, who snitched? Huh? Like, hey, I need you to come up out them names. Who snitched? Ain't nobody play with. Look, I will bust everybody in here right now. Who snitched? And Doug's lawyer is like, no, look, I'm not gonna tell you, all right? I'm not gonna tell you how I came upon this knowledge. I'm just asking you if this happened. I'm asking you, maybe even for a mistrial. Like, how could this happen? He goes, who told you? Who told you? I'm gonna give you 5 minutes to tell me who told you. And Doug's lawyer is like, I don't need 5 minutes. I'm not gonna tell you. That should be the least of your concern. Like, is this true? And he's like, I'm gonna hold you in contempt if you don't tell me. I will put you in jail if you don't tell me. You will go to jail if you do not tell me. It's like, look, I'm not going to tell you. You can put me in jail, but the problem is the meeting. The problem isn't who told me, right? And so then the judge does it. He holds Doug's lawyer in contempt, which is pretty terrifying. You know? This judge is basically going over and over again. Who snitched? Who snitched? I can't stand a snitch. And you know... And you couldn't see Thug's face in the moment, but he had to have been like, I know, right? And so then Glanville does it. He holds Thug's lawyer in contempt. And, you know, the Bar Association hears about it. And they show up to back Thug's lawyer up because that's terrifying. That's terrifying if a judge does something, doesn't even bother denying it, and then holds you in contempt for asking. That's a scary court system. You know what I mean? Because that's one of those things, if it can happen to anybody, it can happen to anybody. Like, I know that it's a case involving hip hop, involving like gang culture, whatever, but that particular thing, that could happen to anybody, I promise you. That's very scary, you know? And so the Bar Association shows up to back this dude up, and it looks like his case is going to be heard, and probably the contempt is going to be thrown out. But basically, they tell Glanville, it's like, there's no way you're impartial. If you're trying this hard, there's no way you're willing to just let the facts play out. And so Glanville has to recuse himself from the case. And one of the things about recusing yourself, it doesn't undo damage. The case just goes on, you know? So there's still this like contempt hanging over Thug's lawyer's head and stuff. And then they move on to the next judge, and the next judge was the judge for a day. I'm not a judge, and I don't know how judges get cases and stuff. Apparently this case was just given to her randomly and everything, and then she got the case and she was immediately like, hey, y'all, I can't. And so many people were like, why? What's the problem? Don't worry about me. I can't right now. And so then the case goes to the third judge. You know, the judge just, that judge. The case goes to her, and she does her best. But it's very difficult. It's very difficult because there are things happening in the case that should just never happen. They actually had an officer come in who was, I guess you could almost call him a specialist in RICO cases through his police work, right? And even he made a mistake on the stand that had the defense asking for a mistrial because basically the state handled the case so poorly, so messy, just so confusing, right? That the defense would be asking for a mistrial consistently. They were asking for a mistrial the way that you act when you got 2 cards left in Uno. Anybody do anything, you're like, oh. Defense would call for a mistrial nonstop. That's a mistrial right there, Your Honor. He just sneezed, that's a mistrial. He gonna get everybody sick. Because this witness on the stand, his testimony, I'm pretty sure had to be thrown out because even though he's an expert in RICO and everything, it was 2 things were revealed that were pretty distressing. One, it's a RICO case, so they're trying to get everybody on everybody's crimes, but they never bothered to really look at the financial records of Thug. Which is pretty insane if you're telling me that all the money he makes, he runs through and to a gang. And you didn't bother to check a Chase statement or anything? That's wild. And then, while this officer is giving testimony, he makes a mistake that obviously wouldn't be called out by the prosecution, but does not get called immediately. And then the defense hears it, and then they're like, this is crazy, we can't allow it. Basically, he references past convictions as part of a testimony to what this person would have done in this case. And you can't do that. You got to judge it by the merits of the evidence you have in front of you about what happened right now, right? And at one point, the judge loses it. She storms out. The judge goes, I can't take it anymore. She hadn't even been the judge the whole time, but she was like, this is insanity. And you couldn't see his face, but you could imagine Thug being like, I know, right? Like, and so she almost grants a mistrial. There's a mistrial with prejudice and mistrial without prejudice. Mistrial with prejudice is basically don't even bring it up again. Mistrial without prejudice is like, okay, you didn't make the best case or something happened or a bunch of jurors went to the Dominican Republic, so like, we can try it again later.
And so, the judge at one point has had it with the prosecution and is giving like a full-on, you just so rarely hear people talk to like this on a live stream that aren't on a Zoom call at home. Like this, she was just like, she was looking at the prosecution and she was at her wit's end and she was like, I don't know what to say to you. Like, I don't know, with the years of experience that you have, I don't know if you were willfully trying this case as badly as possible or if you were just so unorganized that you can't seem to string a coherent thought together on how 2 things are related. And we've heard testimony. There are people that don't show up. We're leaving at 4:25. Like, what is happening? And the whole time, prosecution is like, oh. You ever just take your talking to because you're like, yeah, it's pretty bad. Yeah, and like the prosecutor had the same nod that dudes have on the street when they getting yelled at on Valentine's Day. It's just like, just go ahead and nod. Accept that you've messed up. It was so bad. And it'd be thing after thing after thing, whether it was jurors, whether it was judges, whether it was just wild testimony. There were people so uncooperative, right? Like there was one point where they showed this guy a picture, right? And it's a picture of him and Thug and 2 other people. Apparently with the person, I don't know, I didn't see the picture, but apparently with the person who was murdered, right? because that's one of the charges. There's drug trafficking, there's like gun running, there's all this stuff, but there's also a murder, right? And when it comes to the murder, that's one of the big ones, because they're alleging that Thug paid for the getaway car, right? And so once again, not checking his financial record seems like an oversight. I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying. And they show a picture, right, with all these people to someone on the stand. And they're like, do you recognize anyone in this picture? And he's like, I see me. Okay, fair enough. Even when it came to start with this, there was one time where they simply asked this dude, when did you meet Young Thug? And he was like, before I went to jail. And just for the sake of clarity, the prosecutor tried to clarify, which time before you went to jail? And he just goes, you're right. And I don't know how you handle this sort of thing, because this ended up being the longest trial in Georgia's history. Also one of the most expensive, if not the most expensive, because I guess plea deals cost a lot of money. And it gets so bad that every day defense is like, hey, mistrial's still an option. You want to hit it with a little mistrial? We can mistrial. But then, you know, the prosecution would do something that would kind of warrant a little bit of a mistrial. Like there was even one point where they had someone on the stand read a caption from an Instagram post. And this caption had been poured over because basically through the hashtags, what a lot was being alleged, because, you know, whenever there's letters, whenever there's numbers, it could have no meaning, or it could have double meaning, or it could mean exactly what the prosecution wants it to mean. It could mean what the defense wants it to mean. And so they were arguing about this one picture over and over again before they would let the person just read it out loud to the jury, right? Because then I don't know if it's a gang, and I don't know if that was what the prosecution was alleging, but there was one point where the prosecutor was asking someone on the stand about a series of numbers, right? And a lot of people will sort of rep their area code. That's just a common thing throughout America, right? Exactly. That one, that's one of those things. It's like you don't even. It's so unifying. Everyone does it. Like sometimes you just can't help it. Yeah. But this is my thing. The dude on the stand, prosecutor asked him, "What's 374?" And he was like, "Numbers." Maybe it's a gang, maybe it's not. I have no idea, right? But basically, there's this one picture that's being poured over and over again, and this was the straw that sort of broke everything, right? Because they made agreements, and they had even redacted the picture so that only what would be read was what the prosecution and defense agreed on based off of the evidence that they were both showing, right? But then when they actually gave the picture to the person on the stand, nothing was redacted. And the prosecutor had them read everything. And so then the defense is like, Your Honor. I've never heard a lawyer have to like go your honor, kind of like, Mom, like. But this was it, Your Honor. We just went over the thing. Why would Shaw? And sure enough, Judge agreed. Judge was like, look, I gotta do something else with my life too. Like, it's just, it can't just be this. And the judge said an interesting thing, and like I said, I know a little bit about the law, most of it, what not to do from this case. But the judge says something where she's like, I'm basically trying to salvage something here because I don't want an entire jury's 11 months to be wasted. I don't want, which to me is a little weird. Their time's already been wasted. Like, this is about seeing if someone did or didn't do something. You know? And so that statement was said, but then, judge turns to the defense and goes, I'm not gonna grant you a mistrial with prejudice, but would you like a mistrial without prejudice? And defense was like, yup. And then she was like, I'm inclined to give it to you because this whole thing, this right here, no. No. And so then, they get to plea dealing a bunch of people day after day after day. And then they actually go to Thug and they're like, look, you're facing like 25, 40 years for all the things that we are alleging, right? But we'll give you probation, right? We'll give you probation if you just admit that you are the leader of YSL, a gang where you take all the money and you funnel it through into the gang and everything they do is at your direction. Like if you'll just say that, probation, you'll be good to go, right? And then Thug says, no, I'm not just gonna accept. You came to me to make your case for you. You know what I mean? No. And that's a very, I don't know, to me, that's a very, like, brave thing. Like, I don't even fully understand all of the conditions around the sentence that he actually got, but that was what he was initially presented with. And he said no. And then the state said, okay, we're gonna make sure that you do 25 years. And that doesn't sit right with me. And it obviously didn't sit right with his defense attorney. His defense attorney brought it up when the judge was about to make a decision. Basically, he says, Your Honor, the state came to us and they said he could do probation if he signs this piece of paper, or he could do 25 years if he doesn't. And I'm just kind of curious why the state would allow someone that they're so sure is a racketeering, drug peddling murderer to go free with probation if they're sure, right? And that he'll do 25 years if he doesn't say what they're so sure of. And the judge was like, good point. That is very hard to argue against. And then the judge granted Thug probation and, went home. And there are some people that are like, man, if he could have just stuck it out a little bit longer, seen the trial to its end, there's no way he would have been convicted. The defense was ruining the state, like just at every turn. And it was mostly the state tripping over themselves, right? And I get it though. That dude sat in jail without bond. Dude was in jail for 2 years. He was in jail for a year while they picked the jury. He was in jail the entire trial, And every once in a while, don't get me wrong, every once in a while, Thug would also laugh. Because, like, he was spacing a lot of time, but every once in a while, he'd also be like, how did we get here? This seems... Far be it for me to say, I'm just a rapper, but as far as the law goes... But what? I don't know. I don't know. I get it. I get somebody tells you, hey, you just do 3 more months, you'll go free forever. Maybe. That's scary, you know? And it's also scary that, like, that the state needed it this bad. That a lot of cases come down to reputation over justice. You couldn't just take the L, right? It's like, no, you will die in prison for me to not look bad. That's terrifying, you know? And I know it feels like it can't happen. Yeah, I mean, like, I don't rap, but I could see myself in a bad situation. You know, because it kind of begs the question, you know, did this person get away with a bunch of stuff, or did the state just jam someone up for 2 years? You know, thanks. But that's my thing. It's like I don't even know, and I'm obviously not Thug. You know, I hope that everybody can like move on in the most prosperous way possible. I really do. Everybody that testified, everybody. I wish the best for everyone. I really do. I just can't seem to think there's a level of peace you have to attain that I don't know if I have. Because like if someone accused me of being this like drug running, you know, murderer, this horrible person, like this that did all these things, and they were willing to put me in jail forever with a bad case that they didn't have enough evidence for. And then they were just like, you can go if you just sign it. I think it would make me mad enough to kill someone. But that's just me.
Hey everybody, we're at Helium Comedy Club in Portland, Oregon. Logan went and got a novelty soda for us to try. So we're gonna have some, see what it's like before I go up. Oh, okay. Went with red, that's...
Okay. Ooh, this blood. This blood. This was either blood or kidneys.
Or kidneys?
Ooh, this thing.
Oh, wait, no, this does stink.
Bro, my ears ring.
Okay, you alright?
Make some noise for Josh Johnson!
I didn't know that we just wouldn't care anymore. I thought it's weird sometimes, as much news as I read and I watch, that sometimes there's a thing that you think just in your head. Maybe it's because of what matters to you. You're like, oh, this thing, this is going to be huge. You'll see a thing, whatever it is, and you'll be like, this is the thing that's going to wake people up or freak people out, or no one's going to be able to stop talking about it, right? Different for all of us. But then, I don't know if this is a universal experience, but I think it is. Eventually, you get disappointed. You realize, like, oh, wow, this isn't as big of a story as it should be. People don't care as much as they should. Like, everyone's moved on, even though the thing isn't resolved. That's wild. And I didn't know that we would just stop caring about the drones that are flying over Jersey. Like, that seems... Y'all, that seems like a big deal, and we just sort of let it go. Right? They still up there. Like, it's I guess they don't need batteries because they are still... It's wild. There are drones that were flying over Jersey, and they're loud. They're very high up, but they are so loud that people compare them to helicopters. And they've been flying over Jersey for a while now. And, you know, we all kind of thought, okay, they'll tell us what that is eventually. Someone will know. Someone has to know. Because at first people thought it was kids. And then when they said that the drones were like 6 feet wide, they were like, maybe they're rich kids. Maybe it's like... And then people... and then people started coming up with theories because it was so loud, it was so disruptive, it's over like residential areas, it was so random and everything that people asked the government. The government came out and they were like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. The government has never said, don't worry about it. Y'all, the government said, don't worry about it in American history. The government, I would honestly tell you to watch at least like one White House press conference, one like hour of C-SPAN. The most asinine, insane, minute questions get asked of the press secretary. And I'm not saying they always have a legitimate answer, but they always at least try to answer the thing in some capacity, no matter how dumb it is. They never say, don't worry about it. That's never been the tact that the US government has taken. Don't worry about it. We shot a balloon immediately. Remember that balloon that we couldn't tell because none of the pictures looked clear enough if it was a child's balloon or if it was actually a spy balloon? But we shot it, I think, with a missile and said, that was a spy. That looked like China. We've still never fully confirmed that, by the way. No one has come out. China hasn't been like, we did send that balloon. That's our bad. We were feeling festive. We were playing. It's never happened. That is crazy. Don't worry about it. There are brown people just alive in other places and the government's worried about it. Like that, don't worry about it. That's crazy. So then people started to come up with their own theories, you know? People started to be like, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a foreign entity. I think it's a foreign entity doing reconnaissance. They're spying on us. It could be China, could be anybody. They're using these drones to spy on us. And I was like, oh, okay. Maybe China sent a drone as loud as a helicopter with lights on it to spy on Tony's house. Like maybe there is a foreign government that has the money and the resources to send so many, it's like a bunch of them, so many drones over that can just stay up in the air forever and can evade when people try to like shoot them down and everything. Maybe a government has all the money and technology to do that, but they don't have Google Earth. Maybe. And some people think that's very dumb. Some people think, oh, what an idiot. Who would think that? But you know what it's not dumber than? Don't worry about it. That's the dumbest thing a person could say. I want to make sure we all understand that. Don't worry about it. Y'all, I am so scared the government is out of money. Don't worry about it is the most broke parent thing to say. Yo, don't worry about it. When I was a kid, my dad drove I think it was a 92 Corsica. And if you don't know what a Corsica is, you're doing great. Don't worry about it. But he drove this 92 Corsica, and the Corsica had a hole in the back on the floor. There was a hole. And one day I just went ahead and said something. I was like, hey, Dad, I know that you drive and I'm back here, so you up there a lot and I'm back here a lot, so you probably didn't know what was... I'm just letting you know what's going on back here because you always up there and I'm always back here. But there is a me-size hole in the floor of the car. So just in case you ever pick me up and then you don't see me and you're like, I swear I just picked him up. Where is he? I probably went through the hole that's in the back of the car because it's a hole. I see the road and we are going fast. Like there's a lot. I thought we were going fast when I looked out the window. When you look through the hole, we're going light speed. Okay? So what are we gonna do about the me-size hole in the back? And he was like, don't worry about it. And I was like, that's because we don't have resources. Okay. I had a babysitter one time that was making me some dinner, and I don't know. I'm assuming that the babysitter could only cook what we had in the pantry, and I don't know what the ingredients were, but then when I was served the dish. You ever had something where you're like, should this be on a plate or in a bowl? Because it has enough girth to stand on its own. But it's soupy enough to need some collection, to need some guidance as a dish on where to be, And so I asked my babysitter, I was like, what is this? And she was like, don't worry about it. And I was like, oh, okay. This is a broke meal. That's what's been cooked for me right now, is something that only happens when you have ingredients that cost 23 cents and you put them all together to make a full $2.25 meal. The only thing that you did to cook it was add heat, but you didn't cook. It's all hot. Broke ingredients together on a plate that should be a bowl. Because there's a lot of water running off the side. But don't worry about it, all right? Okay. I remember one time my shoulder was popping a lot. It was like just and like I was like kind of a gangly kid to begin with. So like I don't know what I did, but it was just popping all the time. And I was like, "Hey, Dad, my shoulder is can you hear it? It's popping a lot. It's like popcorn. It's like it's going a lot. Like, does this ever happen to you?" And he was like, "No." I was like, "Should we go to like a doctor or something? Because like I just want to know, is it bad? It doesn't hurt, but it is popping a lot. It's moving. It doesn't want to be my shoulder anymore. Like it's moving all up in there while being kind of still, but like it's not pop. It doesn't hurt, but it's a lot of movement." And my dad was like, "Don't worry about it." And to this day, my shoulder pops quite a bit. So when the government tells you don't worry about it, it makes you worry about that specific thing. There are some people that think it's aliens. They think that is aliens that are trying to make contact and bolder than ever letting us know that they're here, that they're visiting. And okay. I don't think it's aliens because I just don't know if aliens I'm really not being disparaging when I say this. I'm just being honest. If you cross dimensions, I don't know if Jersey would be the first stop. And that's... And I know people from Jersey, and they will tell you if I cross dimensions, I'm probably hitting up, Cairo. I'm hitting up someplace that's a bit more exotic, But mostly I just hope it's not aliens. I hope that it's not aliens because we as humans, this isn't the time to visit us. Like this is, do you know what I mean? Like we're not putting our best foot forward as humanity to get visitors right now. Do you know what I mean? Like aliens coming to see us now would be the equivalent of me coming to see you at 4 a.m. It's like you're just not at your best. You kind of have morning breath, but kind of not. It's bad. No, I don't think aliens would. If aliens are gonna come, they should have done it either 30 years ago or 100 years from now. I think that humanity is not. We're not good for visiting right now. You know what I mean? Mainly because we're the only species. Every other species of everything on the planet, every other species of animal is doing their best to evolve. They're trying to go in the direction that forwards the species that, do you know what I mean? That they will still be around, hopefully. In spite of us, by the way. They're doing everything that they can to still be. Frogs. Frogs have the sense. There will be a frog off by itself doing something weird that the other frogs are like, don't go over there. Don't that's not gonna help. That's not helpful at all. And the frog will be doing something like jumping upside down or whatever, just bouncing upside down over and over again. And the other frogs are like, don't mess with that. Because they know it doesn't help. They don't look at that frog and go, he just asking questions. You know what I mean? He a free thinker. That's what that is. That's why he jumping upside down. Why y'all all jumping right side up like some sheep frogs? Why don't you start bouncing upside down for no reason? See if that doesn't do something to your mind. No. They're like, that's not gonna be helpful. And let's all just kind of get that out of the gene pool. As best as possible. No, we're not serious at all. It's painful. Genuine. And I'm not just talking about Americans, by the way. We're so self-referential sometimes that it's any critique of humanity sometimes sounds like I'm just critiquing I'm talking about people, all of us, planet Earth. All of us, we're not doing the things that would take to make a better world for us, everywhere you go, it's happening. I don't know if you was seen it. It was in Peru. In Peru, there was a drug bust. There was a drug bust where the national police raided this drug house, and who knows if it was a crack house or a drug warehouse or a kingpin's lair or whatever, but it's where the drugs were. And the head cop, top cop that's leading the charge, leading the raid, led the raid dressed as the Grinch. That's unfair to everybody in this situation, all right? That's not right. Imagine, you in there. You deal drugs, you cook drugs, whatever, but you putting the drugs in a little baggie. And then you hear a boom, boom. Somebody has knocked down your door. And you look up. And it's the Grinch. And you think to yourself, actually, you know what? Actually, I do have a sinus infection. No, I do have a sinus infection. I have a sinus infection, and I've been blowing my nose all day, and I've been like taking the Mucinex and everything, but like I have a sinus infection, and then, you know, my nose has been a little runny too, and then when it's runny, you don't want to gross out your coworkers and everything, and so you do a little, and I must have what we making, because that's the only way that it makes sense that the Grinch and the police are here together at the same time. I must have accidentally did what we doing in here to be seeing the Grinch and the police at the same time. Because he didn't just run up in there as the Grinch. This dude, he had the battering ram. And then he goes in. After they break down the door, he goes in and then dropped the battering ram too. Unarmed, just came in character like the great. This man came in high knees, just. This man came in high kneeing like the Grinch. That's unfair to the police officers doing the raid, because imagine you about to raid this house, right? And you don't know what could be in there. If they got drugs in there, they might got money in there. And if they have money in there, then they probably got some weapons in there to protect that money, protect those drugs from other gang members or just from the police, right? So you are about to risk your life going in. You fit it up. You have the AR-15 and everything. You getting ready to go. But then ahead of you, your leader is going in dressed like the Grinch. And then he battered the door down and run in. You got to run after him and make sure not to accidentally shoot him while he over here high-kneeing in front of everybody, moving all crazy. Because they did everything like you would normally see in a raid, like get on the ground, everything. But then the Grinch. Sometimes people try to get in character, and I don't think they understand the character, because I need to listen to it again, admittedly, but I swear he was making noises that the Grinch doesn't make. So then they were like, get on the ground, get on the, and then he was like, it's like, that's not in there though. That's not in the movie. That's not in the book. What is that? That's not, you're not even speaking Spanish or anything. Just it's like, in what work? Because you can tell, even as they getting arrested, they're like, but is he with y'all? Like, no, I'm getting on the ground. I'm asking though. Like, he's just moving all weird in here. Like, what is that? I'm getting on the ground. I'm just saying. You know, you see a country like Peru. I don't know the drug laws. I don't know the sentences that crimes like that carry, but I can tell you honestly right now that they subjected those people to cruel and unusual punishment because they caught them, right? And then I think the three main ones, they made them take their mug shot with the Grinch. And it's like, What other reason could there be other than to ruin a person's life? To completely diminish all street credibility than to make them take a mug shot with the grit. They over here, and I'm sure they didn't answer any questions, because if you can Google this, look at the picture later. You see them in the picture being like, like, why he over here? Like the police never take a picture with us. It's three of them lined up, hold. And then the Grinch over here taking poses. Looking all proud. Because it seems very dangerous to like go in there, batter and ram, and run up in there as the Grinch, but maybe it's not. Maybe he knew that if you run up in there as the Grinch, people so confused that they don't fire right away. They literally like. You see the Grinch, right? No, we're not a serious people. Not at all. No. It's okay. I've been very excited to come back to Portland because I came here in February for some shows, and normally when you do comedy, you go places like once a year, because usually when you go somewhere, the place you went to is like, that's enough. We get it. We get what you do. Give us some time. But I was able to come back, so soon, and I love being here. I love doing shows here and everything. I love coming to Portland because y'all don't wait. You hit people with Portland as soon as they land. Like it's like. I landed in Portland, and my Uber driver to the hotel told me everything. It's the whole backstory. It was a lot. Okay, so top, right? So he basically was in a relationship, then married, and is now divorced from apparently the devil. And so then. So him and Satan, they still share a child, a cat, and a timeshare. And sharing all these three things with Lucifer has really made it difficult. It's made his life very hard. And I was listening to all of the woes of each thing, like the child, the cat, the timeshare, and I was like, oh, okay, well, if I'm being honest, you only really gotta love like two of those. You know what I mean? Like the timeshare. The whole point of a timeshare is that sometimes you're there and sometimes you're not. So like, just be there when the devil's not there, and then let the devil have it sometimes, because that was always what was gonna happen. The cat, look. I know you love the cat, and the cat loves you, and Satan's in the way. But I promise you, if you get a cat that look like that cat, it'll be like having that cat. I can almost guarantee. I'm not saying every cat is the same. I'm just saying that a lot of cats, when he described the cat to me, he was like, oh, she likes to cuddle sometimes, and she sleeps most of the day. And I was like, that's cat. That's... If you can get one that look just like her, you'll feel like she there. You don't even have to clone her. That is a cat, up and down. That's everything you just described is everything I've ever known a cat to do. So, little standoffish sometimes, likes to sleep a lot, climbs a little bit. Yep, you have a cat, sir. No need to share custody on this one. Just get an extra cat, and then that way, if you have two cats, actually, you know what y'all need to do? Y'all need to reverse parent trap this thing. You get a cat that look exactly like that cat, and you put them in a room together, and then you just shake the door a little bit, and then when you open the door, you each just grab a cat, and I guarantee you, it'll be like having that cat, right? And then it's like a Schrodinger's cat, because you won't know if the cat is the cat or if the cat is your cat. And you can just enjoy life with your cat that's yours in your head or not. Who knows? No one cares. The cat won't care. I guarantee you, the cat does not care. This whole custody battle over the cat, sometimes it's at your place, sometimes it's at hell with Satan. That whole thing is nothing to the cat. The cat is like, I'm a nap regardless, right? The child, yes, that is rough, to be fair. That is very rough. You share a child with someone that you can't stand, and if anything, I think that y'all should probably really figure out your differences, because you seem to have so much anger, and from the story that you're telling me, the devil also has a lot of burning fire, anger towards you, and I don't know. I mean, the opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference. If you really didn't care, you would know that you've fully fallen out of love with this person, but because you still have so much passion involved, you should really check in on that, because that's something that you got to be careful, because, you know, what if in all that passion, maybe y'all rekindle a little bit because you care so much, and then what if you accidentally, just in a fit of passion, y'all make another kid? That would be like the cat thing, but worse, because the cat thing is a solution. Two kids with someone that you hate is a big problem. That's double the problem, right? And so then, I guess he wasn't really trying to hear what I was saying, but I only said any of that stuff because I was like, if you tell me your whole life, I thought that you would want some notes on what was going on. I didn't think that you would tell me your whole life and then just be expecting me to. You might as well talk to yourself when you're in the car alone. If you don't expect me to respond to any of it, so then I just laid it all out for him the way that I saw it, Go ahead and let the devil share your timeshare and everything. Go ahead and get another cat. Make sure you figure out the problem so that you can raise this child in a healthy environment. And I don't know if I rubbed him the wrong way or something, but he was like, hey, we've been here. You can get out at any point. And to be fair, we had been at my destination for 15 minutes. I was just sort of in the car chopping it up with him because honestly, we got to my hotel during the timeshare portion. So the cat and the kid was just, I was trying to get my thoughts out real quick, and he was like, yeah, but I do, this is my job, and I'm trying to leave, right? And I was like, all right, but I just thought that maybe it would be helpful. Yeah, I thought it would help, to let you know. And hey, you a good person and everything. You clearly an open person. You told me everything, and you don't know me at all, and you don't know who I'll tell. And so the idea that you're so trusting is both a pro and a con of being in relationships, because it's you're trusting enough to pour out your heart to a total stranger, but also sometimes that trust can either be betrayed or misused, which is what it sounds like the devil did to you according to your story and everything. And he was like, I can get your suitcase for you if you need.